Thank you so much for coming to our second community chat for digital nomads beyond 50. This is an opportunity for you to ask your questions and basically ask me anything, talk about anywhere that you are in your digital nomad journey, as I mentioned before in our posts, where you are, what successes are you having as you progress on your journey to be digital nomads, as well as if you have any particular tips or travel hacks that you'd like to share. Those are some of the things that we'd like to talk about and discuss. Also, as you may or may not have seen the survey that we did recently in preparation for our 2023 CoLive cowork, which will also include the Digital Nomad Life Map program for the first week for those who are brand new to digital nomads and planning. They haven't even get started, which actually is a significant number of the people who we have as members, actually. So I promise that we had a surprise guest here. Ali is one of our members, digital nomad members, and she is visiting here in Quito. She just arrived yesterday, and she is couch surfing with me for a little while. We've known each other for a while, so it's quite, I gave her a nice couch to sleep on. And so Ali has been traveling as a digital nomad for the past 2 years, and she has spread her net quite wide in this process. Kenya, Tanzania, Mexico, Egypt, most recently Panama for a couple of days before you arrived here. Belize, my home. Thank you so much for visiting. And so we also wanted to leave the mic open for you to share with us and respond to any questions that folks may have about your travel. And I know that one of the things that we do talk about in the community chat is being a digital nomad and what we could say are the good, the bad, and the downright ugly of this life. So why don't we start by Heidi and Jerry, did you have some particular questions that you wanted to start off with that we should address? Uh-oh, are you hearing me?
I did not. I came here to learn a network, so I did not have questions. I'm just here to join the fun.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And Heidi.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in the bucket of just starting to think, thinking about it. And so I was curious about, the wisdom that you are going to be offering to those of us who are just starting out. I think that's where I'm at. And then I think in addition to that, it sounds like you both have some good history already under your belts of doing this. And so, your wisdom there is great. But then also, I'm also curious about, it seems in our community, at least, there's a lot of people who are, selling everything and moving internationally and moving around internationally. And I think that that's awesome. And I love that. And for me, I am more in the category of, I have a full-time job that just, with the pandemic went remote. And I am going to be taking advantage of that, but only in month increments at a time, because that's all my employer allows. And so I will always be coming back to a home base in the US. And so I'm looking to see in this community if either you all have done that yourselves, or if there, if you have other people that in this community are sort of starting to do it that way, because I think the pandemic has ushered in so many new opportunities for those of us who didn't think we were going to have these opportunities 2 years ago, and now we do. And so, and that's just a little bit about me, but also kind of where I'm at and what I'm looking to learn and tap into in this community.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Heidi, we have two different experiences regarding home base. Because in my situation, I left Dallas, Texas, immediately. I started this all by giving up my home base, and I started as a home-free digital nomad. And then in Ali's situation, she's been traveling for 2 years, and we were just talking about this, she's a cautionary tale of her experience, because she's been traveling for 2 years, paying mortgage on a house for 2 years, and just actually sold your house. Yay! So congratulations for you on that. So and really, Heidi, there, as you mentioned at the beginning of your comments about the international and whatever, there are so many ways. A lot of people think that being a digital nomad is, it's an all or nothing type thing. You either give up your home base, or you're home free, you're traveling international, and then there's nothing happening, what I call home country digital nomads. But actually, being a digital nomad is what you create for yourself. We do have, I'm just going to make sure I put out there so that you have it right now. We have 2 people in our group who, as group experts, so you can reach out directly to them. Not to say that you might be interested in van life, being a digital nomad, but both Cyndi Sheehan, I see that. But both Cyndi Sheehan as well as Kimberly Ann have done the van thing as well. And Cyndi did a combination of both. Cindy's the one who is currently getting ready to move to Portugal. In fact, oddly enough, both of our van experts are ready to move to Portugal, separately. They're not together, but so there's a lot of good resources regarding that. And there are a lot of people in our group who, I shouldn't say a lot because I can't give you a number, but I do know that there are those in our group, like if you were to post a question, like if, let's say, for instance, because I know some people, even though their company allows them to work remotely, some people are limited to work only within the 49 states. And they need to get special permission to work in Hawaii or Alaska. So they are kind of forced to be home country, what I refer to as home country digital nomads. And then some people are free to roam the world. So it really is what you're going to create yourself. But do you want to share a little bit of your experience regarding your preparation? And
yeah. So, and Heidi and Jerry, please feel free to jump in.
Yes.
Cut me off at any point when there's a question.
As well as me.
So first of all, you guys look amazing. And I'm excited that you guys are interested in doing this. So I, like you, Heidi, I've been a traveler. I've always traveled. And even when I was full-time, part of my path, my journey, I quit my job in 2020. I actually was helping her move out, and I was supposed to be leaving the week after she left, but she got out.
I escaped first. Ahead of the pandemic.
Yeah. So I think a big part of
You guys are on mute.
Okay.
Sorry
about that, but I need to pay attention. We got a little note saying your internet was unstable, but usually it corrects itself, but for some reason it just totally cut out. So back to you.
Okay.
There. We said, so go ahead and start over.
Okay. So yeah, I ended up quitting my job in March of 2020. So before that, I was traveling a lot. So kind of what you're talking about, Heidi. But I never was kind of moving or anything, but I would take 3 weeks and go and travel the world. And as long as I had this little thing with me and they could connect with me anywhere, it was okay. It was deemed okay, but there were some restrictions, kind of like what you were talking about, Siobhan. And I wanted to mention You know, just finding companies that really allow real remote around the world, wherever you want to go, it's a harder commodity than it seems. But I think part of the process for me getting started was initially, and this is going to be my good, bad, and ugly kind of thing, is I was just traveling just to get the experience. I was looking to move, and I still am looking to move internationally. And so I didn't have a set place. Like I wasn't, you know, okay, I'm going to Mexico and I'm going to live in Mexico. So I started off just vacationing, and it turned into 4 months, a year, 2 years, you know, so on and so forth. So I think the biggest thing with keeping a home base, and I did all this with my home still, keeping a home base and deciding to do this month on, month off is deciding, you know, are you going to do anything with your home? Do you need to rent your home out in the in-between time, house sit, anything like that, you know, those kinds of things. And if not, I just saw you shake your head, no, you don't need to do any of those types of things, then you're in a great place because you're employed, so you've got income coming in, you're allowed to travel wherever. So the other part is the VPN thing, you know, if you can actually, do you need to get permission to go into different countries, things like that, and there are tax issues. And I think your employer will tell you if you know, have to share where you're going and that kind of thing. Those are some of the initial things that pop up immediately is, where are you traveling to? Are there tax implications? And are there restrictions with, you know, connectivity, VPN, and that kind of thing? So kind of nailing all of that down initially first is, I think, like first step, you know, since you are traveling with work. The second part is where you're going to stay, like deciding accommodations, because sometimes aesthetically it makes a difference, and sound audibly it makes a difference as well, because sometimes we're in places and they look beautiful, or you want to work from the beach and it's just not feasible.
And let's face it, working from the beach is not feasible, period. It looks good. It looks good in the pictures, but it's not real, because nobody, I mean, seriously.
It's that Instagram versus reality.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
and so a lot of times you'll think, well, I'll get a place on the beach or something like that, and you really, the connection may not be as good. Sound quality is awful.
The sand.
Yeah, you know, stuff like that.
Just,
So
just the logistics, the feasibility.
yeah,
it looks
those types of, just thinking about, like, you know, what are you going to be doing for that 4 weeks that you're gone? What do you want to do? And this probably should be higher. Time zones.
Mhm.
Time zones matter. So I was somewhere where I was 9 hours ahead, and I was still managing my businesses and other things that I had going on in the US. And that 9 hours killed me more than 12 hours, because 12 hours is easy. It's 12, 12, 1, 1, you know, that kind of thing. But the 9 hours, I was doing a lot of meetings at 2:30, 3:30 in the morning. And that is it messes with your time clock. So if I had to say what to kind of start with when you're thinking about going down this path, it would be those things. Obviously, what your job actually truly allows you to do, connectivity, location, and time zones to think about.
In fact, time zone is one of the reasons why I've spent basically the last 2 years in the Latin American corridor, because my work base, not my home base, but my work base is still Dallas. The majority of almost all of my clients are in Dallas and will probably remain in Dallas going forward, because I'm a health insurance agent and my license is for Dallas. So except for Virginia, where you know, I have my former, she's not really my former, she's still my mother-in-law. She's still my mother-in-law. And so I got my Virginia license so that I can help her with her Medicare as such. But I really wanted to say during these first years of being a digital nomad, I wanted to say where there was only, there's only really an hour difference between, and that's when during Central Daylight Time and the rest of, most of the rest of Central and South America does not hop back and forward and do any of that madness. So, that's one of, but next year, and also I had been to Europe a lot. Before I started, I'd been to like 36 countries. The majority of them were in Europe because we lived in London. My husband, daughter at that time, she was a toddler, now she's 24, but we visited about 24 countries during that period of time. So I really, even though that I was from a Central American country originally, I had not traveled most of the rest of Latin America. And so that's why, but I'm looking forward to 2023. What's on my itinerary? I'm really taking the leap, and that is to go to South Asia, Hawaii, New Zealand, Australia, South Asia, and just keep hopping till I get to Portugal around, because that appears to be where our next co-live co-work is going to be. But so those are some of the considerations that you need to keep in mind. And as we mentioned about the co-live co-work, or as I just mentioned about the co-live co-work, that's a type of thing that we are going to, gotta admit somebody here, that's a type of thing that we are going to be considering and helping people work through during the Digital Nomad Life Map. And I'm not going to say anything more. We have some other questions regarding that, but it's those types of considerations that sometimes become a barrier to people because they think it's like a massive to-do list that you're working with. And so our objective is to really help people pace themselves through that and put it in a form of a retreat so that they can do it in a relaxed yet focused environment. So, Kristen, how are you? So glad to have you with us. I'm going to ask if you could unmute. Oh, great. You have unmuted your mic so that you can hop in there. Hello. So happy to have you with us. Welcome.
Great to meet you.
Great. We were just, I had just introduced Ali Carter, who is one of our members who happens to be here in Ecuador. And she just arrived yesterday and she's staying with me for a couple of days. I think she's even thinking about taking over the Airbnb that I am in when I leave on very early Wednesday morning. But so I just want to let you know who our surprise guest is. So
It's me.
and no, we did not plan.
Oh.
We did not plan just as twins, by the way.
Because
today.
honestly, I've been out all morning and I came back to make sure I was here in time, and she took off her jacket and she had on purple too. And I was like, how do we do that? How do we do that? But Heidi, did any of that help with, kind of getting you started with how to do this?
Are you planning to do international travel or a balance of, home country travel and an international, or how are you, as of right now?
A balance.
A balance.
Yeah.
Excellent.
A balance. Yeah. I think, and I'm actually doing this with my husband too. So there's two of us.
Excellent.
But we're thinking both with domestic, I don't know, alternating, doing some mix, and maybe getting started at, I think November will be our first.
Where are you thinking of going first?
Well, it's still a little up in the air, but probably we'll be staying in the United States for our first one, and then maybe after in January start to look a little bit more south of the border, if you will, a little bit more where the sun shines.
Yes.
We're in the northern part of the U.S., so it's definitely in the heart of winter then. So we'd like to get away at that point, somewhere warmer. Yeah, still putting it all together.
So what made you want to travel, be away for a month, away from your home? Like what was kind of
the impetus?
Well, I mean, I feel like my story is probably like, you know, what statistically like 47% of the United States is. I mean, in that, you know, my employer and, you know, my role, my job, because of the pandemic, I became a remote worker unexpectedly, you know, once the pandemic kind of settled down a little and, you know, employers started to make those decisions. And I think the pandemic, as it did for many others, you know, I think it was just a really important time of reflection and change. And we started to think through what mattered to us and what we really wanted to do. And this seemed like such an opportunity that we didn't think we were going to have until we retired. And so now we don't have to retire and we can still work and travel and see places and people. We have adult children that don't live near us. And so that's probably our first stop, is closer to our kids. And so it's just this, we've made some big shifts. I know this group impresses me all the time when I read people's stories, you know, of selling everything and, you know, just jumping in with 2 feet. And we've done some things. We've shifted our lives a bit. We've downsized. We've made it financially so that we can be a little bit more aligned to this kind of lifestyle. So we've made some really big changes. I think are really big changes for us. But when I look at some of the changes other people have made, I'm like, no, we haven't done that. We haven't taken that big leap yet. But it's okay. You know, everybody has their own path. And so, yes, we've made some really nice, we've set ourselves up over the last 6 months to get ready to be able to be more mobile. And I'm excited.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, as far as, because really everyone does have to create their own personal path to this, because there's just so many ways to make it happen. And how you start off at the beginning may not be where, you know, after a couple of years, you may say, hey, you know, I think I want to spend more time in Europe, or spend more time, you know, as a home country digital nomad. And maybe we'll make a list and hit all, you know, 49 states, you know, and you don't have to do that in a van. No, you can fly to every state. So, because I do know people who are doing that as well. So great. Kristen, we were asking folks at the very beginning, what questions do you have for us? And where are you right now in your process? I think you've actually been traveling already, haven't you? Right?
I have. Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. About 3 years ago, I got divorced. My kids had just gotten out of high school, the youngest one, and I sold everything and sold and prepared to go on my journey, my digital nomad journey. And then the pandemic hit. So I had all these plans for international travel. The pandemic hit, and I decided to keep doing it just in the US. And last October, I finally got out to Mexico. I quit my job temporarily to learn Spanish, or start learning Spanish. It's a journey. And you guys are in Ecuador, but it's been my favorite country so far in the last year. I've actually spent 3.5 months in Ecuador, in Quito, Galapagos.
That's where I am right now.
Yeah, Cuenca, Baños, Tena, like I just love. And I, as I was leaving last week, I was like, oh, I need to come back. I'm not done yet. So I'm in Huaraz, Peru. I'm a hiker, so I'm up in the mountains. I mountaineered for the first time yesterday, climbed a peak with an ice pick and crampons up to 16,890 feet.
Wow.
And I feel very awesome. And I have faced a lot of adventures in the last couple of years, traveling alone, traveling to trailheads, meeting people. And so that's kind of my journey. I'm probably going to be in Latin America until next May, when my daughter graduates from college. And then I'm going to do Canada in the summer, and then probably switch over to South Africa. But who knows? I could change my mind tomorrow and go in a different direction. And that's it. So I don't have any questions for you. I just want to say that you inspire me. I love your energy, and I feel the good vibes coming through. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
So I just missed you, Kristen. You just left.
I know. You were even, where were you in Manta or something? And
I was in
you-
Manta for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That's how we first
Yeah.
started communicating, you and
Exactly.
I, because I had put out the notice, hey, I've got this huge, fabulous
On the
place to
beach,
stay in.
yeah.
Anybody want to take, and as it turned out, I ended up having most of my Quito family came for about a week. One of my friends that I made when I was in Colombia, we first met because we were both living at the school, Spanish school and hostel. And then we just continued our friendship for the next 3 months, or 2 months after that. And so she came and visited. And so it worked out just well, because I had a really good balance between people being there and whale watching and cool stuff. And that's also being in Manta that from the very first day that I went out to the beach, because I hadn't been on a beach since I had started my digital nomad life. I did not take my computer with me, but I had my bottle of water, right? And within a matter of 5 minutes, this bottle was almost covered with sand. And all I could think of is, how do people really work on a beach? I mean, seriously, it looks good in the pictures, but it's not, I'm not doing this. I'm not taking that risk with my electronics. So that's what I was laughing about. No, it looks good in the picture, but it's not feasible. So yeah. Jerry, have you come up with anything that you wanted to add or to hop into the conversation here?
Yeah, I suppose the only question I have, so I've been nomading. I was in Europe for 3 months at the end of December. Right now I'm on house sitting and traveling throughout the Northeast and North Carolina, South Carolina. The question I think is longer term, like the home base, just for all the tax and legal purposes. I mean, I had a house in Florida that I sold. I still have an address in Florida, but as I become more nomadic, I guess that is one question I have, is how people manage that. Because I will, with having family here and older parents, I will maintain, I'm gonna come back. I'm not gonna, not gonna always be there. So that's one question I have, is how that gets managed for the longer term.
If you don't have a specific home base that you, like a place that you were keeping, like an apartment or a house that you come back to, what do you do about like your mail? Is that what you were asking?
All of it. I mean, there's a lot of, you pay taxes, right? In the US.
Oh, yeah.
You have to, no matter where you live, right? You have to have a state as a
Absolutely.
home base. There's certain
I still
things,
pay
you
my
get a
taxes
credit card.
for Texas.
Yeah, they're going to send their credit card somewhere. They're not going to, not going to send it to you in Portugal. So there's just a lot of little things that I discovered as I started to do this, that it's not quite as easy as they say. Like, yes, there are these mailbox services, but then you need to get this package, or you need to get this credit card, the physical cards, you can actually swipe it. So those kinds of things that I'm just curious about.
Well, and
voting
my
is another big one too.
Oh, I can also, because I ended up voting from Ecuador, because I was here in 2020 during the election, and that actually went a lot smoother than I thought. I just basically had to pick up some paperwork from, at least in Ecuador. I don't know whether it works at all of the US embassies the same way, but I had to, they gave me a link, and I downloaded in fact, I didn't have a printer, so my Airbnb hosts, who didn't live too far from the condo of theirs that I was renting, they printed off the materials for me, the ballots and all of that. And I packed, did everything that I was supposed to, and delivered it to the US Embassy within the appropriate time frame. And they explained to me, because I was curious to know so that I could share it with other people. So what happens now? I'm handing off an envelope that had, they gave me a label, a pre-printed label, or not so much pre-printed, but a label that had my local, the specific office of my local electorate that my mail was supposed to go. They take those and they collect them once a week. They put them in a courier envelope. And so they're already addressed, and it's free for us to mail them once they get in the United States. So every week, a courier was picking up an envelope, flying with it to the United States. And once in the United States, they put it in the mail, and it's postpaid, and it went whoever's address their ballot was, it went to that address that was on the ballot. So that's how that happened. In my situation regarding mail, I asked a friend of mine, a very trusted friend of mine in Dallas. As it turns out, she's also the person who I parked my car at her home. So that when I'm in Dallas for the 4 months every year that I have to be there, I just, she collects my mail. And if there's anything really important, I also signed up for United States Parcel Service, what they call informed mail. And they don't open your mail for you, but they scan all of the important, I mean, they're not going to scan all your junk mail. They can recognize what that is, but they scan the envelopes, and I can recognize if that envelope needs to be opened, and I inform my friend, could you please open this and either take a photograph of it and send the picture to me so that I know what this is about. So but I found, that's really awesome that she has been doing this for me. But now that I have been, out there being a digital nomad for 2.5, almost 3 years, one of the things that that's a lot, that's a lot to ask someone to do for you. So I think that going into next year, I'm going to look into virtual mailbox. When they actually open your mail, scan it and send it to you. And Kristen, you were nodding. Have you tried a virtual mailbox by any chance?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I use, is my virtual mailbox, and I've had great success. They scan it, you get a text notification on your phone and or an email. You can go in and look at it, and then you say whether you want them to open the letter and scan all the pages or shred it or whatever you want. And I don't have a service in which they can forward to those virtual.
Just a little bit of breaking up, Kristen.
Physical address too. There are things where you need a physical address.
Yes, I have I changed my residency to Texas, and I have a friend in Houston, old Army buddy. She's gonna use her address. I think so far I've had to use it for 1 or 2, and for my driver.
We lost you there for just a second, Kristen. It looks as though you're muted now. Can you unmute again? Ask to unmute, and I hope her connection. Kristen?
Yeah.
You broke up just a little bit there with our connection. So I hate to ask you this, but this is really good information that you're providing. So could you repeat again?
Yeah.
Actually, excuse me. I think Kristen's was fine. We could totally hear you. I think it was your internet that you didn't hear her.
Okay.
Yeah. Not that you don't want her to repeat it for yourself, but I just wanted to be clear that I think the technology is on your side.
Yeah, but I think we're trying to figure out how to maybe go to her hotspot without losing, because
it'll try to reconnect, but it's still better than it.
Well, actually, let's see what happens, because we only got about 20 more minutes, and hopefully it won't happen again.
Yeah.
And we might end up taking up more time trying to, because I can, or maybe what I should try to do is use my hotspot, which my computer already has my laptop already has.
While she's figuring that out, I love that you asked that question, Jerry, because so that virtual mailbox thing, I was going to actually use that, and I've kind of got a mix between Kristen, what you're doing, Siobhan, what Siobhan's doing. My car is at a friend's house. My mail is forwarded to my parents' house. And I was going to do the virtual, but the only reason I didn't is because they have to forward the mail, the packages and things like that somewhere anyway. And so I just, my mom is looking for things to do. Bless her heart. So she's like, I'll keep an eye out for it. And I was like, fantastic. But when you're not planning on going back and forth, like I don't have a time frame. Like how do you know when you're going to be back home and those kinds of things that you kind of can plan for. All right, I know this is coming. I can go and pick these things up. That was the one thing I was concerned about the virtual mailboxes. I know they will store your packages, and not that I'm going to get a lot of packages or anything like that, but I was a little concerned about, opening mail if it's, from a doctor's office or something like that. How do I manage that? And I think I kind of just go through this phased conversion kind of thing. And I eventually probably will go to that, because the other thing was I don't have an address now, and I was in Dallas and I realized being home free, I like to say homeless, but Siobhan likes to say home free, but being home free is really tough in the US. Like there's not a whole lot, like you can't do much without an address, some sort of an address or a utility bill. Even going and updating my global entry, you have to take a utility bill. And I was like, oh, I don't have one anymore, technically, and so those types of things, Jerry, as you were talking about, and Kristen, it's a little bit harder than it seems to just pick up and full-fledged pack up and leave and go somewhere else. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I may jump on that virtual mailbox thing at some point, but right now I'm kind of utilizing two friends to do the same thing right now.
May I ask, Kristen, how much is your digital, your virtual mailbox, and what service do you use for that?
It's myvirtualmailbox.com, I believe it is. And I think I pay, it's just the lowest amount. It's like $9 a month. I get, and there are different charges. Like if I have them scan after so many pages or so many mail openings a month, they charge more. So I don't remember the total, but I rarely get mail nowadays. So that's the thing I recommend to all of you who haven't started. Get off of every list you possibly can. Just shut it down. Like just get off of everyone's mailing list, donations, whatever, and get down so that you're not even receiving things to begin with. And that really makes a difference.
Well, yeah, especially if they are opening up your mail and charging you for, being donation lists and such.
Right.
So,
Kristen, was it easier to do national change of address to your virtual address, or did you individually get rid of?
It was both. So I changed from my USPS address to the virtual, but I also notified like all my credit card companies and things like that. I went ahead and everyone that I knew would send me something at any time and needed an address, I went through and updated them myself.
Okay. I'm looking close because I'm trying to, I don't understand how we're still connected. Yay. And supposedly we switched to my mobile hotspot, but it's still saying that we have no connection. So as long as we're together, that's the most important thing. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see, there are some questions that some folks had asked. Any people had asked, what kind of general travel hacks, tips, and apps that we found to be very successful for us. And that question comes from Allison. And does anybody have, I'd like to throw it out to you folks first. I think you just shared one that was excellent, Kristen. Anybody else from your own travel that you have some really good hacks and tips that people can benefit from?
No, please. I'd let these guys speak.
Well, I do a lot of house sitting through trustedhousesitters.com. So I love it. I really enjoy it. I've made friends with people and I get to hang out with all these awesome dogs and cats at these houses. So I think it's fabulous. I love it.
Well, it's interesting. We were just talking about trusted house sitters yesterday and trying it out. And our concern was about the pets. I had heard, rumor says, that you end up sitting primarily elderly, ill pets. Is that true? No?
That has not been my experience at all. I have not sat for a elderly, sick pet yet. So,
so they're well behaved. No personality disorders.
Everyone's different. I mean, sometimes you really have to, especially with dogs, you might have to spend a lot of time walking. One house sit we did, we walked about 5 miles a day, twice a day walks with the dogs, but
Nice.
it was great for our getting in shape. So there are personal trainers in those cases. Where we're staying right now, there's trails and the dog loves to walk. And so we're going on 2 walks a day with her, but it's wonderful. And I also just recently introduced a friend to it. She's in the UK. She got house sits right away. She's in London right now, house sitting, and she can only sit for cats because she's allergic to dogs. So, if you house sit for cats, you don't have to walk them. And it's a little more flexible because then often you can go out for the day without, with dogs, you have a more routine schedule typically, not always, but typically. The dog we watched in Portugal, she stayed out all day. And if we wanted to go somewhere, it was fine. We just had to be home at night to let her in. So it really varies a lot. But I've done it all over the US, Portugal, and one in the UK, and I'm heading to Greece on a house sit in December. So yeah, so I love it. I'm, big fan.
Excellent.
I have a question about that. And it's kind of the flip of it. So one of our barriers to our own, travel is that we do have pets and we have cats. And so, I've been trying to figure that out through my own networks locally, having people house sit and even considering maybe taking them with us if we're going domestically to try that out. So I'm curious about, I don't know trusted house sitters, so this is the first time I'm hearing about it. And do I have to pay anything to have somebody come and stay with my cats? Okay.
You don't pay a fee for them to come. You pay a subscription for the year.
I see.
So my subscription as a house sitter, I think I have the more premium version because I get so much value out of it. It's like $165 a year. It's unlimited number of sits. And honestly, I did not know about this when our dog was alive. And I wish I had, because I was always, getting friends to watch and, it just added, and he wasn't in our home. So it was more stressful. So I wish as a pet parent that I had known about this because I would have done it in a heartbeat. It's one time, one fee for the year, unlimited number of sits. And depending on where you are, you may get lots of applications. You can interview them. You can do video interviews. Most of our sits, we do video interviews before we get chosen. So, again, I'm just a big fan. I think it's a great thing, both for the pet parent and for those who like to travel and like to be with pets. So.
Excellent. And you also, I did, when I took the flight from Manta here to Quito, there was a woman on the flight and she had a cat in a carrier, and and I've seen small dogs in the carrier as well too. So Heidi, I think it's particularly with cats because they are somewhat easier. They're more portable. I'm thinking a cat would be more portable than a dog of unless they.
I don't know about that.
Really?
I mean, they're smaller. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know
they're
if
smaller.
they adjust as well as dogs might.
I haven't had a cat in many years, so
Yeah, I
What's
feel
going
like
on
I
with
don't
this?
know. I could have this conversation all day long because I'm kind of a cat lady too. But I think for me anyway, driving somewhere, you know, in the United States, having them in carriers would be a little more easy than international at all, or on an airplane. Because I just think they need time to kind of adjust. But I don't know. I haven't even started looking at realistically, how many places could I even bring a cat to? You know, Airbnb has pets, but you know, pet. But I think most people travel. When you think of people traveling with their pets, I think you almost always think of people traveling with dogs, not with cats.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I would love to hear from this community, you know, that's a good question I can put in our community conversation of like, just has anyone traveled with cats? And what does that really look like? Because that's an unknown that we have. And we do have elderly cats, but they're not sick. So, you know, you can't force them along. You know, I think that their time is limited, but of course they're family members. So we've got to make sure they're covered in our new plans, you know.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, that's why I mentioned about this woman on the plane. And granted, it was a short flight. It's less 45 minutes. So that maybe that's had something to do with it. I don't know. As you mentioned, international flight that's of up to 6-8 hours plus. That might be different. You might need to sedate the poor thing, you know, for a trip like that, depending on the temperament of the cat. So, yeah. Anything else?
I wanted to recommend some sites. I found during my travels that I have a particular temperature range that I like to be in. I'm a hiker, and I like it cooler. And I'm not a beach person, I'm a mountain person. So I try to find mountain places, and then I try to find the right part of the year for hiking. So maybe some of you have something similar. Maybe you love the beach and you want it like sunny and bright and no rain or something, but it's weatherspark.com is great.
Spark. Okay.
And it is great. You can put in any city, you can put a country. It'll tell you all year round everything about the weather, so that you can find the perfect time to visit that country or that place. And you can reassure yourself that usually on average, it's going to be something like this. So you know what to expect. And that's helped me tremendously. The other thing is Skyscanner.
Oh, yeah.
For just finding like the best kind of flights. I don't purchase through them, but they're like, it's kind of like doing a Google Flights, but better for international. And I use that to then go directly to the airline site and buy my tickets. Those are my two favorites.
I do something similar with Hopper, because they will send me messages, just like, well, Google Travel will also send you messages when the price is in a good place, or they'll say the price is probably not going to get any less than this before your travel date. So you might as well go, you should go ahead and buy it now. Or historically, the price should drop, so wait a little bit and see, but don't wait any longer than a certain date. So, but we kind of got burned on Hopper during the COVID. I shouldn't badmouth them, because it took, a year and a half, and we weren't, when I say my daughter and I had tickets with them, and we had just given up on getting our refund of almost $800 total of our 2020 travel. And all of a sudden it popped up in our account. I was really quite surprised. But at one point, there was the bad taste in your mouth of thinking, well, it's never going to happen. They're not going to give us our money back. But they are good for tracking the fees, the fares.
Yeah, I was gonna say Hopper. So I'm a Skyscanner girl, and I use Skyscanner for the same reason, Chris, and I use the everywhere option, because we don't have plans. So you make your plans as you go. You pick everything.
You don't have plans. I have plans. I don't know about you.
But after that, like I realized like there were a couple third party that I use. I use GoTo Travel was one. There was another one that started with a K, and then there was one called like Student Travel and or University Travel. And what it did is you could get 7 days to cancel your flight for $7. And I haven't seen it.
Wow.
So that was on Skyscanner, but I look on there, but I go to Hopper now because not only does Hopper give you all the little bunnies that pop around and tell you all the good stuff, but that Hopper offers like that next level of your flight. So they'll offer a discount, or you'll get your money back, or a credit through Hopper directly.
And that's kind of new.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, that's a step up in their service.
So they offer, and it's really neat. So you can look and it'll say how many perks, and it'll tell you how many perks that they're offering. And then I go and look on the actual website. And sometimes they offer perks that the actual airline doesn't offer. And that's now I'm between, I was a Skyscanner Momondo girl, now I'm a Skyscanner Hopper girl. And then I'm gonna give you guys one that I use. If you're a European traveler, if you like the European side, and they're kind of expanding their scope, it's not an app, it's just a website. It's called 80days.me. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of that one.
That's new to me too.
It is fantastic. So what you could do, if you're excited, you don't have plans, is you can put in where you're flying from, and then they have like regions like the Shenzhen area, or if you want to like love romantic trip, or what, all this stuff, like honestly, and you select it, and what it does is it'll let you include or exclude countries if you want, or you could just like willy-nilly let them pick, and you pick your duration. It has to be at least 8 days, even though it says 80 days, but it has to be 8 days, the duration of the trip. You'll select that and, click, find whatever, and it routes you all over Europe, and it will you can book your entire flight through that service. There they use trains, planes, automobiles. They use every mode of transportation. And from there, you can they show you a map, and it'll show you the route, and you can go in and say, nope, I don't want to go there, and pick something else, and it'll tell you what the price increase or decrease is. So it is really awesome. It's 80days.me. So if you get a chance, check that one out.
Excellent.
That sounds fun just to play around with, like just a dream.
One thing I'll say about Hopper though, well, one caution, they also added this new service where it's called a concierge service, as well as a tip well, I think the tip was always there. They asked for a tip, and you had to actively click to add the tip. Now they recently added the concierge service as well as the tip, and it is the default mode. I'm hoping that they will change this, because they're probably getting more and more contacts from people like me, who, when all of a sudden, what was it? $38 was added to my ticket from Quito back to Dallas, because I didn't realize that concierge, and plus the tip, it was a $33 concierge fee and a $3 tip. So $36, no, $5 tip, 33, so $38 total all of a sudden. And I got in contact with them, and I said, I didn't intend to do this. I thought that was an option. Now I realize it was a default, that I had to actually slide to say, no, I do not want the concierge. I do not want to give you a tip or whatever. And they were very quick to refund that part of my ticket. Well, it wasn't that additional cost. It wasn't even my ticket. It was the additional cost. But the fact is, it was a little annoying that I had to to go and chase them and ask for that. So that's something that I just want to put out there that people should watch out for with Hopper. And I'm not saying don't use them, but just be aware of that possibility. So
Can I ask, I know trusted house sitters came up, but are all of you just using, mostly like Airbnb, or when you're looking for places to stay? I'd love to hear about how do you find your accommodations?
I use 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 is the cheapest. So one of the things I will say, and I'm glad you said that, Heidi, because I was I'm a trusted house sitter. No, yeah, I'm a trusted house sitter. I just haven't done any house sits through trusted house
You
sitter.
just signed up. You signed up, but you haven't actually done
Because
it.
none of the dates have correlated in the States, and where I've been internationally, there aren't any, like there aren't any here now. There was one in Panama, but they didn't need a house. So it just didn't correlate right now, and I haven't planned my travel based on a house sit yet. So that's the plan. But on 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, as well as Booking.com, that's my fan favorite as well, Booking.com. I like Booking.com better than 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 because to me, the website functions better and it shows you more information, more thorough information. But 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 is like the cheapest, pretty much for anything.
You mean as far as the fees that they charge on top of?
Just the price for hotels. So
Do they
can
do hotels as well as residences, like,
yes,
this
now
apartment?
everybody does. So Booking.com, you can actually list. So if you're an Airbnb, you can list on Booking.com. You can list on 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. You can list on Vrbo. So a lot of people are using Vrbo too, Heidi. That's VRBO, and HomeAway or HomeAway. Is it HomeAway and HomeAway? Be HomeAway and Vrbo.
I think it's HomeAway.
It's HomeAway. Yeah, I've seen that one.
They're doing that, and then there's another one that I learned about when I was in Acapulco, and it might be HomeAway, but there's one where you actually don't pay for anything. You exchange houses, like that movie, that really cute movie. You guys know which movie I'm talking about. I can never think of the name, but they swap houses.
Yeah,
it's a thing. Like
I've done that in the past, homeexchange.com.
exchange.
And that, Heidi, for you might be another option, because then you don't even have to do simultaneous swaps. You can like book points for it, but you might have people who are like, oh, we love cats, we'd love to come stay at your house, and then you get points and then you use that toward but I can tell you, when I put my Florida house on that, this was 10 years ago, in August, I was inundated with people from Europe wanting to come to Florida in August. I thought, you're insane, but okay. But they did. That's what their vacation is, so you never know.
So those are some of the main ones that like my first searches are on those. And I'm going to tell you one of the best ones. Those are great because those are going to give you, locations. So let's say it's a Riu or a Marriott, whatever. They only list certain rooms on so many rooms on each of these sites. So you'll find them on everything, but you'll find like it's priced $10 more, $20 more, something like that, right? And so you'll see those kinds of things. But what I found in my travel, and I'm a frugal traveler, so I like to be very smart about money, because sometimes you can't be, sometimes you just want to splurge. But walk in the neighborhoods when you go someplace, and I know that's not pre-planning, that's if you're long-term doing some things, you find a lot of houses and things like that are listed. But one of the things that works great is if you go on Google Maps and you type apartments or just type hotels, it'll give you everything that is not listed on a preferred site. And then you can literally just click it. They'll tell you the prices and everything, and you can click it and see which, like if it's Expedia, if it's 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, and they'll tell you the prices for all of them so you can actually compare.
Excellent, excellent. I didn't know about that. I usually use Airbnb, which is where, I booked the place that I'm in right now here in Quito on Airbnb. And I've also been using Booking.com. When I was country hopping, Panama, Costa Rica, and well, not Mexico City, that was Airbnb. But one of the things that I kind of like about Airbnb is that they have their own little point system. And if you've done some, like, I think you get to the first level if after 5 bookings, and then you get to another level after like 10 bookings. And the level that I'm at right now allows me to get in a lot of the, not every place, but in a lot of the places, it allows me to get free breakfast. if they have a restaurant or some type of service like that on where let's say if it was at a lower level here, it doesn't, and it shows, and when they show me the selections of places for where I'm looking at, it'll tell me you get free breakfast, you know, you due to your points or whatever. So that's a nice feature. And some of the places have the breakfasts have been really, really good. Yeah. So, but they're not,
Have you found that any,
I haven't found any I'm sorry, Heidi, was it you? Who's sorry to say something, Heidi?
yeah, that's okay. Yeah, well, I was just curious about when you're looking, I suppose, like if I have a place on Airbnb and I'm listing it across all those different sites, like you said, they probably list it on different ones. Have you found any like street shooting way to find like reliable internet, or, you know, given that's such a critical part of working, any tips on how do you really know?
You write the owner before you book and you ask them the question, what is your upload download speed?
Yeah, have them do a speed.
And
Yep.
sometimes even that doesn't work, because I have had owners, I actually asked them to send me a screenshot of the speed test. And I mean, that guy in Manta, it's a lucky thing that the place had such a fabulous view and I really enjoyed it. And I decided, you know what, I guess I am just going to take these 4 weeks. I'm not going to do my Medicare certifications because I don't want my internet going down in the middle of a timed exam where I only have 3 attempts to take the exam. I'll wait until I get to Quito. But he had sent me a screenshot. I specifically asked for a screenshot of the speed at his location, and I don't know where the heck he got that screenshot from, but it wasn't in the place that I was renting, because there's no way.
That is
that's
horrible.
too bad. Yeah.
Like 80 some, and then when I'm there, it can't get even up to 20, you know? So
Downgraded before you got there. or
yeah,
something.
and we, you know, I had some really good communication with him, and I said, this is not what I expected, but I still, you know, I still stay because, but if he had been somebody else, and I would have reported it to Airbnb,
Yeah.
because I felt that that's just
Yeah,
not
and a
right.
lot of times you can get your money back. They prefer to refund you than have a bad mark, because once you comment on Airbnb, you can't remove that comment.
Right.
What you can do is you can go and relist that same exact listing, which you'll see a lot. So I don't know if you guys know this tip about Airbnb. When you're looking at a host, like let's say you find a place and you're like, ooh, this is awesome. One of the cool things is click on that profile and it'll show you everything that they have listed on Airbnb.
Mhm.
So sometimes you'll want this great place and it's not available, or you know you really like this particular host. And if you can communicate, say, hey, do you have anything else? Or you can just look and see. And sometimes noticing if they list the same place over and over and over again, different ways, that's kind of a, why do you have it listed? And so it's just little things like that. Cause like, yeah, you don't necessarily know what's going to be good. One of the things I do is I get a SIM card, number one, everywhere I go, because I can't depend on Wi-Fi in a place. And number two, a hotspot. You have a fantastic hotspot, but I get
You're talking about this?
yeah, I get a hotspot sometimes in the countries, like when I was in Africa, in East Africa, their Wi-Fi in Tanzania is the worst, and they have no regulations at all, none. And you can't even call and say, I paid $100 for something, I need to be reimbursed. They go, you know, so you get a hotspot. So it's just things that you deal with. But what I found there is the Wi-Fi was awful in the apartments, but if you went to a coffee shop, you could sit all day and have great Wi-Fi. But obviously you can't always be, you know, in a public place doing business and stuff. So I get that. But those have been some of the workarounds that I've used.
I would also say I scour the reviews on Airbnb. When I find a house, I go through all the reviews and I try to look for another digital nomad spent a month there and this was their experience, either good or bad. And that kind of either reassures me to get it or it discourages me from trying if they had a bad experience. So that's what I rely on a lot.
Yeah, with the guy in Manta, I am going to mention about the internet. But one of the things that I think that what happened, well, besides the fact that I don't know where he got that speed from, as I said before, but I feel the need to at least say that there is an issue that needs to be addressed with the internet so that other people can be aware in my review. And one of the things, how I'm going to phrase it, is the fact that it does not have fiber optic. And that's not really in the control of, that's the building that he's in as compared to his individual service. And until, you know, and so that's not really the control of the person who owns that particular condo. But I felt the need to at least let people be on the aware that it's not going to be like being in Quito, which is, a major city, cosmopolitan city. Manta is one of the larger cities on the coast, but their internet service in general is not at the same level as Quito, someplace like Quito. Yeah. How was your?
I put the speeds in my. Oh, sorry.
No,
I was just going to say, I put the speeds in my reviews now because it's so important to me. And oftentimes it'll say high speed Wi-Fi, but what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know,
great idea.
And so I always put in every Airbnb and every hotel in Portugal. We stayed in a hotel that was terrible. It was like 3 to 5 megabytes per second, which is nothing. And my hotspot wouldn't work there either. So maybe it was a dead zone. I don't know. But I put that in the review exactly, so other people at least can see.
I like that. I like that idea. And I think I'm going to adopt that, Jerry, because that makes a lot of sense. I'm not saying, it's one thing to say, well, the Wi-Fi is not so great or whatever, but to actually give the speed. And I think one of the things that I'll also do as a backup in case that the owner tries to come chase me back and says, you lied. Well, here it is. Here is a photograph, the screenshot of me in your place. And this is the speed that I was getting in your place. So you can't tell me that that's not, but that is probably one of the greatest challenges with traveling, is making sure that you get good speed. So I do have one question, another question that came in that I wanted to address, and this is from Cindy, and she did say, well, what's up with the 2023 co-live co-work? And I'm just going to quickly respond to that with the time that we have left. We did our first co-live co-work in Medellin, and that was in June for 4 weeks. And we learned lots of good lessons with that as well. And one of those is that, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a lot of people who were not in a position to attend even at a minimum of 4 weeks time frame. They're not yet digital nomads, so they couldn't commit to 4 weeks. And then luckily the guest house allowed me to do 2 and 2 as long as we had someone to match. Somebody could take the first 2 weeks, and that 2-week booking, they wouldn't confirm that until somebody took the 3rd and the 4th week. So that's how we worked around that, so people could participate for just 2 weeks. But there was a couple of things that we learned from that, and that is there's so many people who are part of Digital Nomads Beyond 50 who are more in the planning stage than in the actual actively already being a digital nomad stage. And so we are creating the Digital Nomad Beyond 50 Life Map, which will be a course. I'm working on it myself because I have 15 years in corporate training and organizational development. And so I'm incorporating researching as well as incorporating anecdotal experience to create a retreat so that people can have a focused period of time within 1 week, fun on the weekends, and then we have mornings of classwork, so to speak, classwork. But it'll be planning to be a group of people who are all participating. Everyone is going to be working on their own personal path. We will have also different types of facilitators coming in, a facilitator who hopefully is, not hopefully, she's a digital nomad, but she's also a therapist, because there's some people who, in the process of making the decision of becoming a digital nomad, they're not taking into consideration whether they are emotionally ready to be a digital nomad or whether they're physically ready. So we have a virtual coach, fitness coach, who coaches people. She herself is a digital nomad and can coach. So they're going to be doing like little segments as a part of the 15 hours, the total 15 hours over 5 days that we're going to have for that. And once again, it's going to be the digital nomad life map, because you're creating a personal path, a map to becoming a digital nomad. And the opportunity there is just have, without distractions of home or anything like that, and to have its people who are experienced in doing this help people guide them in making, and hopefully at the end, they've been working with the same group of people for the past 10 days, or I mean, not the past 10 days, but 10 or 12 people, because you're trying to do it within a small group. And that will be a community, a support community in and of itself that will continue after our week's worth and of time. And then for the other 2 to 3 weeks, then we have experienced digital nomads joining at the same location. And that's important because people who are in the class will have an opportunity for an overlap. They can, pay a little bit extra to stay for another 3 nights during the time that the experienced nomads are starting their co-live, co-work. But one of the things that I discovered as myself actually working during my co-live, co-work, as compared to some people who were explore or digital nomads, and they were kind of taking it as a holiday, is that, they're more in a position to play than I was. And so there is a distinct dynamic between people who are the explorers and people who are the experienced digital nomads. So that's why we're kind of, except for those 3 nights, we're separating the groups so that the experienced digital nomads can get what they want from a co-live, co-work, and then the others can get what they need from the life map planning. So that's about as much information that I have right now, but we'll be getting it out. We'll be rolling that out this fall so that people can start signing up. And it is looking like May in Portugal is when it's going to happen. So. Kristen, were you about to say something?
I was just going to add, so as I've been traveling around Latin America, I've actually been staying in the hostels from time to time. I'm in a Salina right now, a long story. But on all when I have to hire a guide for a tour, I end up being with, I'm 55, all the kids on the tours are about my kids' age. And there's something cool about mixing with them. And they're always going, how can I be like you? How can I have your life? And so I have kind of a mentor moment or a mothering moment with them, because I'm always saying, come on, live life and chance at it and make it count. But I'm mixing with younger people, and sometimes that's good, but they like to party all night long. And sometimes being in a Salina, I'm always right above the bar for whatever reason. And I'm laughing. It was on until 2:30 this morning. So good times.
How well I know, because I was 4 weeks in a Spanish language hostel, and I had originally tried to have a private room. They said that I would get it at some point. In the 4 weeks, I never got out of my sleep cubby. So I was in a 6-woman dormitory in a sleep cubby for those 4 weeks. And I did make some good friends and I enjoyed hanging out with them, but there is a totally different dynamic. No, like for instance, for our co-live, co-work, there are, we're gonna try. The feedback is that people are quite fine as adults and all pretty much in the same age. They're quite fine sharing the room with another person, one other person. So that will help with the costs there as well too. But it was fun being with the pups, as I call them. But at the same time, when I think about 4 weeks or 2 to 3 weeks, I just think I prefer. Me personally, I prefer to be with other digital nomads who are within my same age group. And I think that a lot of people are finding that although you may enjoy it, but there's a value that you get from talking and having that interaction, that solo interaction, that social interaction with other digital nomads sharing the same experience on the same age level. I mean, we did party when we were in Medellin. Party, but it wasn't anything. Nobody was throwing up in the bushes or anything like that. Like what was going on with the first 4 weeks that I was in Medellin in that hostel. So, and nobody was stealing anybody's food from the refrigerator. I didn't buy any food that had to be refrigerated because I didn't trust those guys whatsoever. And somehow the toilet seat disappeared from the toilet, and everybody thought that was funny. But after 2 weeks and it didn't get replaced, it was really annoying. So yeah, their view of fun is different.
Yes.
Agree.
Yeah. Well, thank you all. Thank you all so much. I hope you got some value from participating, and those who sent in some questions. Allison and Cindy, we appreciate your questions coming in as well too. And look forward to, we're going to try to do this every 2 months so that we can have some kind of a consistency and hopefully people, in addition, more engagement as well too. But thank you all, Jerry and Kristen, and also Heidi. We appreciate you participating. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.